Good morning, Namaskar. On behalf of Library Professional Association, I'm Anand Jha. Welcome all of you for a wonderful webinar. This is the series of webinar conducted by the Library Professional Association in collaboration with the Moving World. Moving World is a technical assistance for us. Yeah. Again, I feel some noise from some participant side, so I request all the participants, please mute your audio and video. Thank you. So in continuation of this program, I request Dr. Ramanand Malviya, President of Library Professional Association. Welcome all of you, and he just tell about the Library Professional Association and the achievement of our organization. After that, we do have the Kusum Lata ji with us. She is the regional coordinator of Uttar Pradesh, regional coordinator of the Library Professional Association for Uttar Pradesh. And esteemed speaker, we do have Dr. Shiva Kanojia Shukla. So I request Dr. Malviya. So, Dr. Sir, please, this time is yours. Just give some bit of introduction for Library Professional Association and regarding today webinar. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon to everyone. I, Dr. Ramanand Malviya, President of Library Professionals Association, welcomes you all on the online webinar on open education and resources, challenges and support. The speaker of today's webinar is Dr. Shiva Shukla Kanojia. She is a Deputy Librarian at B.R. Ambedkar Central Library, JNU, New Delhi. The moderator of this webinar is Dr. Kusum Lata, Library Professional Association Regional Coordinator, Uttar Pradesh, West Zone. This topic is very important for library professionals, teachers, researchers, students, and other academicians. In the 21st century has been recently termed as a digital era, with the internet bringing a substantial changes in the people's life. We are heavily depends on the usage of technology to even most complete simple tasks. Most of you must have aware and heard about the digital learning, the e-education, e-resources, e-teaching, e-learning, etc. They have been substituted by the web-based education, which strengthens students' learning and experience, etc. Digital learning can be defined as a web-based learning, which is effectively make use of the information technology to impart knowledge to students. In fact, this has been introduced only a few years ago and has got a tremendous response from all over the world. In other words, it is also known as a smart teaching techniques, and such most of the schools and educational institutions have gladly adopted this method, thereby bringing a closer changes in the educational system. The kids are taught with the help of large LCD screen and projector, which is beyond the conventional method of the teaching. It facilitates the learning process anywhere and anytime. Library Professional Association welcomes Dr. Shiva Kanojia Shukla for accepting our request and sparing her valuable time. This webinar has drawn widespread attention and a overwhelming response, both in the terms of participation and terms of the choice of the subject. Its current needs and importance for the teachers, researcher, library professionals, etc. Now I request Kusum Lata Malik, Library Professional Association Regional Coordinator, West, to proceed the session. Over to Dr. Kusum Lata.
Thank you, sir. Good morning to all. I, Dr. Kusum Lata Malik. As we all know that today the whole world is fighting with the global epidemic together. In this critical situation, whether it is the government, whether government employee, doctors, police department, all are engaged in defeating the epidemic from their own level. Library Professional Association, in short, LPA is also contributing from its level for the nation. LPA is a well-known and very reputed association and has so far organized dozens of webinars during of the time of pandemic. Today's webinar is also a link to the same series. LPA strives for the upliftment of the society. This webinar will be beneficiary for academicians, students, research scholars, as well as LIS professionals. I am also feeling proud to be associated with it. I am heartily grateful to the office bearer of LPA for this. Now I invite Dr. Shiva Kanodia Sukla. Please start your lecture.
Thank you,
Please,
madam.
ma'am.
Yes. Good afternoon to all. Respected Malviya sir, Dr. Salek Chand, dear Dr. Jha, Madam Kusumlata Malik, senior professionals, academicians, and dear friends. As we all have learned during this pandemic times how to really move on and learn different things. And the same quality or ideal is behind this open movement across the world. And this topic is related with open education, how different components are being functional across the globe and in our own country as well, how different challenges are there, but support mechanisms are also there, how we can really proceed for this open education movement in our country as well. As we can see that different aspects are related with this open movement: open resources, open content, open access videos, open educational resources, and different other kind of open learning channels. What are these? These are actually the direction that how different populations across the world can really be facilitated by the education aspect. Different governing bodies in different countries are really instrumental and providing supports to have this open education in their higher education system. This open education is a kind of philosophy about how people should be able to produce, share, and build upon knowledge. But how it will be possible without providing access to educational resources in free manner, in a manner that can be really reused and again distributed to others. That is the philosophy behind it, this open education. It is not something new in our own country. What are different associated values with the open education? It has a global focus. It is related with the openness in our higher education system. It provides equity. Equity is very significant here. In our constitution, the concept of equity is there. Everybody should be able to receive resources in equal manner. In the same way, education is also a resource for everyone to move a good life, to live a good professional life, to have achievements in different directions. And how it is possible without collaboration in different components of the system, this is not possible. And this open education really provides chances, opportunities, and platforms for collaboration among different stakeholders of higher education. And definitely, since it is a movement across the globe, so it really provides platforms for multiculturalism as well. This is one definition. I have quoted here Open Education Consortium, which is about sharing it probably the most basic characteristics of education. Education is sharing knowledge, insights, and information with others on which new knowledge, skills, ideas, and understanding can be built. What is the motive behind this definition? We can understand that education is most important for all the human beings. Those who are deprived of education cannot really think of developing and growth in their own life. It is a basis for occupation, it is basis for mental enlightenment, basis for so many other things which are required for an intelligent life. So once the education is available for all on the basis of openness, the new knowledge can be built upon, different skills can be imbibed in different areas. What are open educational resources? Open education cannot be successful without open educational resources. These are those kind of learning materials which can be really useful once they are modified and enhanced with the given permissions. Different rights are there, different policies are there, but with the permissions, these learning materials can be modified and reused for different other academic communities, different academic populations, and these open educational resources, if there some permissions and some restrictions are waived off, definitely leave the copyright, but there are different supporting legal tools and platforms such as Creative Commons licenses, which are instrumental in providing these attributes to the open educational resources. How different platforms can really support open educational resources to reach to masses, because they should be available for free access, for reusing them, they can be translated, and definitely users can modify, but with certain attribution and given the permissions. Different examples are there. So many full courses are there, course modules are there, syllabi, lectures, homework assignments which students prepare, various quizzes which are prepared by professionals and their institutions, then different lab and classroom activities, they can be available for open educational resources. Also pedagogical materials which are very significant for academic community, for students, they are also available as open educational resources. Also some other components are there like games, simulations, and many more resources as open educational resources. This particular slide shows how many different components are related with open education. Courseware, microformats, metadata, machine readable learning, then different profiles, bookmarking. What are these? These are different components which really facilitate us how to move during and beyond the open education. When we apply open licenses to educational material, they allow educators to collaborate. I have one request to organizers. Please, this waiting room information is just appearing at the top of slide. So can it be shifted somewhere else? Because it is blocking my heading. Hello, Mr. Jha. Mr. Jha, can you hear?
No,
Dr. Yes, sir.
gone.
Salak, sir. Sir, then please, I request to remove or to shift
Okay.
this waiting room information. This is appearing on the top of the slide.
Okay.
Yes, sir, please. This is.
Yes, ma'am. We'll do that. We'll do
Yes,
that.
sir.
We'll do
Okay,
that.
sir.
Yeah.
So, what are different opportunities related with open educational resources? At the first, this is a collaboration among different components of higher education. Once there is collaboration among educators, they can really ensure the consistency, which is important element along with the materials. Without collaboration, there will be no quality OER, then there will be no consistency. And when different levels of academicians collaborate with each other, these kind of quality output appear before us. This open educational resource, they can really be used for reducing cost, for providing and producing these kind of course materials. Also, it is very much important to supplement the education. Why it is important? So many students are there in our society or in different other developing or underdeveloped not exposed to higher education, but they also require. So educational resources in the form of open education, they can be supplied this kind of information. They can have access to open educational resources and they can really educate themselves. Also, these kind of resources since they are available through different licenses, different platforms, they can be redistributed in open formats. And there is another example like OER Commons. It is very much helpful in distributing different projects and materials. What are MOOCs? Everybody is listening nowadays. MOOCs, we are opting for MOOCs, or our universities going to provide access or enrollments for MOOCs. What are these? Actually, these are massive open online courses. These are accessible to everyone who wants to really register and enroll themselves and complete the course. And why these are called massive? Because the registration and enrollment is available for masses at large scale. Everyone can be covered due to their variety, diversity, and opportunity associated with these MOOCs. So different kind of courses are there. Depending on requirement of these courses, anyone can register and complete the course. These are few initiatives which happened during last decade, actually, I should say, but most of the developments took place earlier in this decade, when we can say since 2008, actually it has been happening, but during 2012 and 13, it is greater on the level. And few examples are there for platforms like edX and one organization, MIT, then Harvard, and then later Stanford joined. So it has been more than one university and more than one platform organization or effort, I should say. Then some other ventures are there like Khan Academy and Coursera. Coursera is very popular, as we all know. And what are the extent to which different MOOCs license are available for remixing and reusing the materials, but there will be differences. There will be differences in permissions associated with these kind of licenses and opportunities. In India, it has been related with the open movement. Well, open access movement when began in our country, it was related with the emerging knowledge-based economy. It is very significant. What are the benefits? What are the different platforms and efforts in our country? We can see MHRD has been very much effective, and then at global level, UNESCO and IFLA, they have come forward and provided platforms and guidelines and policies through different conferences and other papers to have this open movement in different countries. A number of countries have joined this movement. Also, when we talk about open education's benefits and its roles in social context, it really provides social empowerment, how it is related. Once there is access to education, it will be really fruitful to the masses who cannot really afford costly education, and higher education is costly everywhere, I think so. So by providing open access and open education platforms to masses, once they are really able to reach and complete these courses, they will be able to have good occupations, empowering themselves and improving their quality of life. Also, there are certain components that there may be uses and applications of textual or different other kind of platforms like audio visual platforms, but everything is related towards sustainable and optimum using uh, education, and it should be integrated with formal curriculum across the higher educations. Once they are adopted by universities and different other components of higher education, only then the wide reach will be possible in the country. When we talk about our close neighbors, I have taken two examples, one from China and one from Sri Lanka. In year 2002, there has been one conference related with this open educational resources. And China then came out with this idea at that time at the forum of open courseware for higher education in developing countries. Also in Sri Lanka, I have mentioned here the open educational resources based e-learning. The Open University of Sri Lanka has been associated with this movement in their country. there are different platforms which are available at worldwide. I mentioned earlier UNESCO, then IFLA, then some other are there. The first example is Open Education Consortium. This is a non-profit organization and it really functions for developing open policies and creating that environment which really provides sustainable open education models. It really functions towards how to find, reuse, and create open educational resources. It is very much important that sharing and redistributing OERs should be possible among the masses. Without sharing and redistributing, the very much purpose of open education cannot be really possible. And how it is providing support. It has a member-based network to various institutions and organizations. This particular OEC has been functional in so many directions. One example is their UNESCO, which provided OER recommendations. Coalition. This recommendation happened during 2019, just last year, November session at the UNESCO General Conference. And it has been adopted by 195 UNESCO member states. And this was related with the future international collaboration in the field of open educational resources. It has been a great achievement for the UNESCO and related countries who have been able to understand the significance as well as the benefits associated with to provide open education to their country people. And who are different coalition partners? These are 9 members there, coalition partners. The Commonwealth of Learning, Creative Commons, then International Council for Open and Distance Education, ICTE, then Joseph Stephen Institute, Knowledge for All, Open Educational Global, this, which was formal OEC, then Slovenian government, Spark USA, and Spark Europe. These are coalition partners for the UNESCO OER recommendations. There are certain case studies, so many case studies are there, but I have chosen few which are reflecting how much saving can be done. And since the beginning, this example is since 2013 and 14 year, and it shows about savings over $250,000. And this example comes from Bovard College. And it is very significant example that they have included more than 30% OER adoption in their system, and it saved them a lot of money. So what are these? These kind of examples really motivates. This is another example. This Maricopa County Community College District, MCCT, they really found out that they saved around, they thought that there is a potential for saving more than 5 million during 5 years. And what were the purposes? That it is related with their teaching, learning, research resources, and which are copyright free. So these examples really motivate how we can utilize and implement different policies and infrastructure to have open educational resources for reusing, revising, remixing, and redistributing among our scholars and requiring people. This is another example. This is Nova's OER based open education. This was one project, and it also reflected about savings more than $200,000 related with textbook costs, and the project was highly successful. So these are examples from the early times, 2013-14, both examples here. And they had this team-based project. Also, this is one consortium. This was an alliance of 10 community colleges in 9 US states. The science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM sectors. So this is showing here how many areas are there where courses are being adopted and savings are there. So many savings and adoptions are there. This is one particular graph. This is related again with the initial days, 2011 to 13. Different kind of users at that time. We can see here by different colors and these bars about different students at levels like high school or first degree or advanced degree, and how many faculty members and self-learners were associated with these programs who were joining for the smart future with the help of open education. So these kind of information really support how we can go for open education in our system. These are few quotes, or I should say a few answers from the interviews of open education related professionals. One example is by Anka Mutler. She is a Vice President of Educations and Operations, this particular organization, the Delft, the Netherlands. She said when she was asked about how you can define or describe open education just in 5 words, she just said access to higher education, innovation, and quality. In these 5 words, she defined everything related with the open education, that it is about providing higher education through innovation and quality to masses. This can be really associated. Also, there is one more example by Donna Goddard. She is head of mathematics department, SEC, the US. She said in the answer that it was not possible for her just to confine in 5 words to describe open education. She said that if we start with the department, I would say it's engaging, it's energizing, it's rewarding, it's community building. So many components she has mentioned here: engaging, energizing, rewarding, and community building. All these are related with the social context as well as moving in the higher education sector. Then further she added, it's probably not fair to just try and come up with 5 words at the institutional level, because we are not really there yet. It means people are striving, institutions are striving to reach at that level where we can have this engagement between students and higher education through the help of innovation and quality. And there will be time when it will be building the community and rewarding the people through open education. This is another slide reflecting different number of MOOCs. It is last year's data. How many courses were there, how many micro credentials were there, then how many degrees were there. It is related with 2019, and it does not include China, but it includes all other worlds. This is reflecting course-wise distribution through subjects. How many related with social sciences? 11% it is saying. Then 5.2 related with art and design. Most of them are related with business and technology, more than 19%. So it is showing that the growth and proliferation of different subjects through MOOCs. This is the growth over the year since 2012 to 2019. How many students have really gone for MOOCs? The numbers are high. Every year they are increasing. This is information about 3 major providers: Coursera, edX, and Udemy. The number of learners are really in millions. 45 millions for Coursera, then 24 millions for edX, then 200 courses in Udacity. So these figures are reflecting how much popularity is being increased day to day. Now we can say, since this pandemic has arrived, that there is need. It's not about popularity, but it's about our own needs, how we can cope with the present situation. And this open education and through different platforms really can help our higher education system. This is about Coursera, which is an educational platform. It is partners with so many top universities worldwide, and students can study. This is example of edX, which has been instrumental for providing open education at initial level, and it was a non-profit online initiative at the platforms of MIT and Harvard. Then this is third example of Udacity. It was really born out of Stanford University experiment. Definitely, so many times we read in our science and history, many inventions are outcome of few accidents. So it may be related to that. And it shows also how many students are there in different countries. And when we talk about our own country, it has been initiative here through the platforms of our university grant commissions. We all are aware of this particular screenshot. The homepage of UGC MOOCs. We can see here different components like invitation for proposals, then courses, then who are SWAYAM coordinators, different workshops, then information related with credit transfer. So this particular platform really is very helpful for everyone, those who want to get some information, or they want to contribute in this particular movement, or they want to really study. So they can go to there. Why GER is important and where our country stands. So this particular data shows that across the Asia, GER is 30%. In China, it is more than 39% in higher education. In Bangladesh, it is only 30%. Then Korea, it is, we can say it is almost 100%, but I'm sure it is 95%, more than 95%. Then Afghanistan, which is also showing low rate, 9% growth, gross enrollment ratio in higher education, but our country stands only at 23%. This was the status during 2016-17. But then UGC came about this idea, this National Skills Qualifications Framework, NSQF. It's a very important initiative by UGC. It provides a competency-based framework which organizes the qualifications according to level of knowledge, skills gained, and aptitude in the scholar. It has been a Government of India initiative. Under this program, the user who acquires certification for competency needed at any level through formal or any kind of learning which is recognized. This is one example of UGC initiative, this skill qualification framework, NSQF. There are different levels in NSQF, graded from 1 to 10. These are defined in terms of learning outcomes. Learning should possess learning through different channels, maybe formal or non-formal or informal learning. Then there are national occupational standards, which are a statement related to skills and understanding. Then these NOS are required for effective performance in a job role. And these are expressed as outcomes of competent performance. These are certain specific ideas related with this, that mobility between vocational education, then a recognition of prior learning. This allows transition from non-formal to organized job market. There global mobility of skilled workforce from international equivalence of NSQF provides mapping of progression pathways within sectors and cross sectors. The approval of NOS and QP as national standards are required for skill training. So these kind of initiatives from UGC and Government of India really support our students for gaining skills, grading them at different levels, and they can prepare themselves for not only the own nation but also working outside the India. These are a few national coordinators came along to establish this particular platform, SWAYAM. The names are AICTE, NPTEL, UGC, CEC, NCERT, NIOS, IGNOU, IIMB, and NITTTR. These are those platforms who help in developing the initiative of SWAYAM. This is a particular example of UGC effort showing how UGC informs and spreads knowledge about different activities related with SWAYAM. This was an exam announcement for free online education. Then this is about a credit framework for online courses through SWAYAM. The regulation appeared in 2016, and it was very much advising to universities to identify courses where credits can be transferred on SWAYAM. and at least 20% materials from the total number of courses by an Indian university should be released in the form of MOOCs. It was advised then. Then UGC further came up with choice-based credit system for facilitating choices to students. So these are few examples how UGC has been active in spreading MOOCs related information and providing guidelines and policies to Indian universities, how they can adapt and adopt. Also, nation-wise information relates that UGC informed, this is related with this year itself, for adoption and promotion of MOOCs in our universities through a platform and partnership with Swayam. Whatever guidelines and policies say, they should be accepting and they should be promoting, they should be highlighting in their own academic environment, the universities. And till this year, till this time, there are more than 900 universities in our country, and 137 universities have really facilitated this credit mobility for the students. These are few observations from last year's. This data is related with three bodies, CEC, UGC, and IGNOU. They had been partnering institutes. CEC had 19, UGC had 22 last year, and IGNOU had 3. And the number of completed courses at 3 organizations are 265, then with UGC 220, and with IGNOU 36. This is again information related with status till April 2019. There had been students enrollment. It's a good number, but I know that the number of students we have in our country in comparison with that, it is quite behind. 2,63,560 with CEC, and more than, I should say, approximately 1,70,000 with UGC, and reaching towards 50,000 with IGNOU, 47,529. Then how many students registered for the examination? Only 2% out of total enrollments. The data is so low and it is quite behind in comparison with the real enrollments and registering for examination. Only 3% in UGC and more than 1% in IGNOU. And how many successfully completed? Only 1,625 from CEC and 1,853 from UGC, and IGNOU does not show here anything. Well, percentage of successfully passed out learner, it is 31.12%, then 37.32%, and for IGNOU, it does not show anything. So this is the status in last year, but there must have been so many developments during 1 year. So this is about Swayam courses. More than 500 courses are there open for enrollment. And these are available in different regional languages as well. Bengali, Gujarati, Hindi, Kannada, Malayalam, Marathi, and Tamil, Telugu. All these languages are there on the website. And the completed courses entries are 2007. And this platform was launched in 2017. And since then, over 10 million learners have taken courses on Swayam. At this rate, when we can visualize the growth, it may be one of the largest platform in the world very soon. This is about how different announcements of courses appear. We can see example of digital marketing. It appeared just some time ago, and the date is 19 July for registration. Then BHU has informed about animations course. The application date is 1st August 2020. Then there is example of mathematical economics. The last date to apply is 19 July. So these are different courses being provided by different universities and collaboration with Swayam. So users are being informed. This is another example. The last one I mentioned, mathematical economics from Doon University, Dehradun, and UGC via Swayam. So this is how information spreads. People come to know what kind of course is there, what will be benefits. This particular overview informs so much about the course. And in the right panel, we can see provider is Swayam, cost is free online course, session is upcoming, language is English, and everything is there. And this MOOCs will start at 19 July. So those who are interested, they can go for this thing. While discussing about what has happened at global level and how things are going, different networks are there, different policies are coming, different platforms are there, that different so many countries are being associated with each other to provide a direction for open education. But and at India level, we have seen Swayam and UGC, they are doing great for our students and our higher education system. But how we can really understand open education? What are different components? So this particular slide shows about different components in open education. The first thing is that it provides a scenario-based learning approach. It is very significant that scenario is created, different levels are there, and with the help of constructivist pedagogy, this happens. Faculty members, instructors, and other technology people, they collaborate and they design different system for open education. Without collaboration among different components of the system, a good open education platform and module and course cannot be designed. What are different approaches and challenges here? At the center, there are challenges which really open new beginnings, new directions for quality open educational resources. It is at the core because it is the aim to provide quality OERs. Without this particular aim, nothing else can be constituted or can be peripheral towards it. Second part, the middle part is the use and applications of OERs in a thorough, systematic, and competency-based education era. Why it is required? Systematic approach is very much required. Without a thorough planning and understanding the market, the requirements of students, the availability of IT infrastructure and distribution and awareness of these courses, it is not possible. Then at the outer core, the reflective approach is there, and it was observed in University of Wisconsin few years ago. What are different challenges associated with OERs? According to Horn, Anderson, and Perrick, 2018, these four kind of challenges have been highlighted. The first requirement is having concrete tools. There should be methods to locate, evaluate, and curate OERs. This is a major challenge. How to have good infrastructure, how to find out good methodologies to locate and curate open educational resources. Evaluating. Then this is overall satisfaction related with the cost, how these systems can really meet needs of users. They should be understanding what are the job requirements, what will be the market in near future, what kind of courses should be designed, and with no or less cost, the students can be served. Then understanding and addressing the quality of open educational resources. What happens in common, people understand that everything is available on internet and it is free. There are methods to evaluate, there are methods to find out quality open educational resources. So that kind of awareness and evaluation mechanism should be there. Then finally, measuring the quality. It is very much important whether this particular MOOC, this course module is really able to instill the knowledge which is required in the student for a particular job for which the certification is required. So all these factors are major challenges, but different approaches, the systematic approach and scenario-based learning, all these mechanisms help students to learn. What are different reasons and responsibilities? The first is to create awareness, and the second is the translation of students' need, identifying potential and possibilities of open educational resources. As open educational resources have been considered and found significant as new media for learning. Apart from our printed books and some other random websites, the quality-based open educational resources are really good platforms for learning. Also, these open educational resources are really supportive to bridge the gap among different education systems, whether they are non-formal or informal or the formal education system. Then we comes to the policy making side. Authorities and bodies which are responsible for framing the policies, they are trusted with the decision that they must be understanding the future, the current requirement, the global scenario in context of open education, and they must be framing the policies and designing the system, the framework in which the policies and universities along with platforms like Swayam, they are functioning in coordination with each other. Also, the analytical evaluation of open educational practices, these are very much significant for wide acceptance of the concept of open scholarship. What are different attributes? As mentioned here, Karuna Naika and Naidu, they gave this concept in 2017 that the course of open scholarship ensures the availability of open educational resources under an open license scheme. Why it is required? Just to provide access, to facilitate further adaptation, and informing about the degree and extent of openness, how many permissions are there, what kind of license it is there, then how users can use or reuse this particular information, what are the policies related with retention and redistribution of that information. So all they should be functioning in coordination with open access ideology or philosophy. They all should be framed in the direction to move this open education movement. Different collaboration practices and developments are there. There are three components: the collaboration and design, then approaches and pedagogy, then growth and development of OER. The outset collaboration is in between researchers and practitioners. What the research found out, it should be in practice, and this kind of academic pursuit can be done only by iterative analysis, designing, and finally implementing to provide quality open education. Then this design-based approach is very much important because there is no classroom teaching. There is no direct interaction with the teacher face to face. There are instructors, there are mediators, but this design-based approach is very much important while designing the module, the course, everything. Then understanding the impacts of open scholarship in the context of instructional material, how the pedagogical thinking happens and different practices in our higher system. The design-based research approach is very much important because it is helpful and supportive to provide and highlight the developments in our higher education practices. What are 4 stages of this design-based research approach? The first step is analysis, then providing solution, then testing and refinement, and finally reflecting. This was also mentioned by Karuna Naika and Naidu during 2017. Analysis is required because without analyzing, without thinking deeply, one organization, one governing body, one higher education system cannot design a good platform, good courses, good components for students. Then in the form of solution, these courses are there. Then these IT-based interfaces are there. Then testing and refinement happens because without testing, there will be no improvement, and without improvement, there will be no final product in the form of MOOC. And reflection is here, how students perceive after registration about that course. Are they able to complete? Has it been helpful, the designing of the course to complete the course? Is it really student friendly? Is it understanding the requirements of student or not? Collaboration mechanisms are very much significant and related with the philosophy of education. Reusing, revising, remixing, and further creation of information. And it has shifted from being content centric to context centric, because content is required for students and it should be providing answers to the questions which are really before us in this current time. Once we are facing this pandemic, are we really able to provide education? Our system can really be supportive to students to fulfill their higher education dreams. Then there this constructivist approach comes into picture to support everything. What are different advantages related with open educational resources? There are hidden potentials in OERs by instilling the access to informative education resources and providing a sense of equity among the scholars. There are different applications and contexts, like principles of outcome-based education. Means what are the targets which have been achieved by the MOOC and by involvement of the student, then establishing mechanisms for measuring the team-based approach. It is not possible at an individual level, but it is an outcome of team-based approach. Instructors are there, developers are there, faculty members are there, policies are there. So every component functions in tandem to support and collaborate to find out one solution in a one particular area. Then transformation and innovations at national and international levels. There may be context, but the drivers in the form of social, economic, or political nature, they are really supportive for accessing a quality open education. There are two kinds of benefits, qualitative and quantitative benefits. And advantages related with these benefits are integration, opportunity, efficiency, enrichment for the users. And these kind of scholarly learning are able to faculty approach and academic outcomes, while the quantitative benefits are related with independent and dependent variables, which include the benefits as qualitative benefits, but they are also related with the catalyzing changes, improving productivity, and supporting non-traditional learners. What are different open education characteristics? We can see here the division in three components: social, moral, and economical. All three are very much important in societal context. In social characteristics, it is considered as a shared enterprise, while moral aspect reflect about education as a common good. It should be available for all, but when there are economic factors, when it is a costly education or some other factors are there hampering the reach or access, then this economical factor comes as education as a commodity. Means somebody has to pay a price to access the higher education. Then this open education really functions very well. Different stages in OER. Technology enhanced learning, TEL, as we can see, it is about sharing, accessing, and reusing. Has open education philosophy here. Then enforcing the mechanism inherited from multilingualism, multiculturalism, and pluralism. It is meant for open education at global level. Then technically, metadata schemas, semantic technologies, and web-based interlinked resources to facilitate the access to open education. These components are there. These particular four components shows the authenticity and validity of open educational resources. What are the areas, what are different aspects which really frame the student's perception, why there are certain gaps, then that really should be found out a big number of registration, but the completion of courses is not that much high. Then quality of open educational material, how this technology really functions in favor of providing open education in the forms of technology enhanced learning and different other components like metadata and other things. And finally, this interactive sessions and future sustainability. In a face-to-face classroom the teacher is available there and students can really ask any question. But in this kind of platform and mechanism, how students are supported by the answers of instructors and other medium. This shows the directions of evaluation. It can happen by organizational, technological, structural, and funding method. They should be evaluated. Then what is the customer offer, value chain configuration, different funding and profit formula. Some private players are also there. Also, how the sustainability can be achieved. This particular slide shows different logos of organizations and platforms involved with this open education in our country. These are few examples who are very much supportive in open education system. One is Shiloh, creative higher education with learning objects. It is very much helpful for providing access to textbooks in consolidated way. Also, there is one app. This is Speak Apps. It is a computer-assisted language learning project. It is used for oral language-related pedagogical programs. Then societal context really is very much significant. I have quoted here Mr. Marshall, who suggested that while opening resources may be of benefits to individual learners, but the complex systems or accreditation of qualifications and funding of higher education is related with substantive reductions in the cost of higher education, which are unlikely. Also, one more author, Bordeloy, 2018, he stated that knowledge-enabled people of a nation are instrumental in achieving attributes which are really desired for the development of its people. So we can see here how this social context is very much related with the open education, because education is a tool to empower people. Because once they are educated, they are learned, they can have opportunities for jobs, for occupations, and they can have a balanced life, a strong life. Then these people really support their nations by contributing. This is learning based design. It is related with equity oriented design, supported with computer supported collaborative learning, CSCL, given by CALER 2018. There are certain principles which are related, such as initiatives which have supported educator and discussion about equity topics. It also supported in identification of design principles for equity oriented designing in open education. Also, they have proposed a model for the designing of open learning initiative, which can be really mutually committed to educational equity and educational openness. So this particular effort related with CSCL, related with equity oriented design for the mass level education. What are different design aspects? First is the leveraging of the open web, then fostering multi-stakeholder partnerships. There are people, there are platforms, there are policymakers. So everyone should be in tandem towards one particular goal to achieve open education for everyone. Then engaging professional learning as an open practice. How this can be put in our practices in our country. Then working with open content means providing licenses, providing platforms to make it available. There is one important model, open palimpsests model, which is significant in context with CA just few minutes ago. And it is really supportive for creation of educational opportunities which are providing equity aspects and supportive in collaborative learning environment. Also, there are certain drivers like educational publishing, which are based on technology, which related to educational sector, and this is also related with MOOCs. This particular slide shows how many challenges are there in system. This open education initiatives are there, then open textbooks are there, and hence the pedagogy, teaching methods, how it should happening, then open data, everything is in open context is there. But not only open education, but the pedagogical practices are also related here. Now comes the library factor here. I'm sure libraries are heart and core or center in any higher education system, in any university, in any college, in any institution. The importance of library, nobody can undermine in spreading the knowledge, in facilitating the knowledge platforms, everything. So in this open education movement, libraries can also support how they can be helpful in creating awareness, then raising awareness. It is very much important because a library is the center point of any academic institution. Everybody visits library for this or that purpose. So the kind of awareness creation can be taken up by library is really supportive. Then providing a network-based community in the organization, then advocacy and advising uh, for this open education, helping in capacity building, providing implementation support, and some consultancy as well. So these are few factors in which these area libraries can also support the open education movement. Once again, I'm mentioning here the UNESCO movement, how UNESCO has been uh, able to bring out the library factor in here. The third point says that UNESCO issued a unique mandate to work upon OA policy to bridge knowledge pools across the world, and by consulting these modules, the Indian University could also develop a course on research and library and MOOCs in the Swayam platform. So this shows somehow the libraries really interwoven in most of the activities and movements of higher education. These are certain areas for action where libraries can support: building capacity to create, access, use, adapt, and redistribute OER, then helping in supportive policy development, then finally encouraging the equitable quality of OER among students by creating awareness, by informing them, then nurturing the creation of certain models for OER which are really sustainable for future. And also libraries can be instrumental in facilitating international cooperation. There are some other implementation areas like monitoring and reporting. They can be helpful in deploying appropriate research activities, tools and indicators, then collecting and disseminating progress, distributing the good information about achievements in open education, and also planning for monitoring and evaluating the effectiveness related with OERs. This is one example for students how to find open education courses or some other information. This is one platform, this Merlot. This provides broad information, very vast information about different courses. But it is one tool, like a search engine. But how in our own country we can be finding information? I'm mentioning here this Bharat Padhe Online, recent notification from UGC, Honorable Minister of HRD, Shri Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank. He initiated this campaign, Bharat Padhe Online, and it is related with boosting electronic learning and how we can intensify online education in India. And it was a great initiative by UGC under his aegis. For inviting ideas and suggestions. It was mentioned at 11th of April of this year, same year. This is another example for UGC and National Digital Library efforts. It has been mentioned on 4th of May 2020 during this our pandemic time, that how National Digital Library is available with vast resources to support our academic community to read and to continue learning, enhancing their learning. There should be no scarcity, no lack of access towards educational resources. This is another example recently, just last month, issued by UGC, showing that different UG and PG courses are listed there, which have been approved by SWAYAM board, and they will be available in July semester for students. So somehow UGC has been continuously active for open education, supporting our students at mass level through the help of SWAYAM platform to continue the learning process in our higher education. This is one example here. Then where we can really find more information about open education, these are few names here: Open Education Europa and Open Education Consortium, the OER Commons, open source. So many platforms are there. I just mentioned few here. This is another example about how the movement is going on. Just one quote from Mr. Anant Agrawal, this MIT professor of electrical engineering, who's CEO of edX, very popular courses. And the question is there, it was published in, can MOOCs predict the future of online education? It is a big question before everyone. And how different programs, different policies are functioning towards making the open education successful in different sectors of the world by transforming our world. It is one program which mentions about 2030 agenda for sustainable development, mentioned 17 global sustainable development goals, which may transform the world by 2030. So while concluding, I would like to say this open education really has been synonymous with the higher education nowadays, and this pandemic has really compelled everyone to think about go for open education system, going for MOOCs, and universities which have been advised by UGC at different times to adopt and promote MOOCs in their system, and to inherit the credit part also to facilitate students. And these platforms like SWAYAM and some other, they are really promising models for our education systems. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shiva.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So in chat box, I got very overwhelming response from the participants. Yeah, I request you to please off your screen share.
Just a minute. Sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it fine, sir?
Yeah, is it fine?
Yes, yes.
So I got go through the chat box. I got very overwhelming response from all the participants. They need first they ask for the PPT. I assure them that definitely they will get the PPT from you. And another, they have the query about the e-certificate. So just I want to clarify that I already circulated in flyer. Those who want the e-certificate, they deposit some 50 rupees for the certification, and that time is just ran away. Now I'm not entertaining anyone to deposit their money, and we are giving the certificate for the same. Whatever they deposited, I just take all registration, and they will definitely get a certificate within 2-3 days.
Hello,
okay.
Hello.
So hello. Yeah, ma'am, it is audible. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Shiva ma'am, it's audible. Hello. Hello, it's audible.
Yes, yes, it is audible.
Okay. Good afternoon, ma'am. Audible? Shiva ma'am. I think she mute. Just unmute Dr. Shiva. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I
Now it's
was
fine.
unable
Yeah,
to
yeah.
hear.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
So now it's a turn, and you must be audible, because this is the time for the question answer.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
so many questions are there. I pick up 4 or 5 questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So there is the one question from someone. They ask for the job opportunity.
Yes.
If
Sir.
they go for the job, so employer prefer the regular candidate, though who has study in regular. Okay, so they don't prefer the correspondence one. So what is your opinion about it?
Sir, it depends on that particular organization's policy. Me and you really cannot answer. We cannot.
Yeah.
We can answer only in general. If that organization, that corporate platform really promotes learning in service, if they have in policy and in service agreement, then they will support financially to the student. Otherwise, not.
Yeah, as well as it's depend upon your
Yes,
knowledge
sir.
also. It
Yes.
doesn't mean that you are correspondence,
Yes, sir.
your studies from correspondence or
Yes, sir.
regular.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so another question is from Sandhya Sanan.
Yes, sir.
She asked, there is the OERs for school library especially.
There are, sir. There are so many platforms for school libraries also, but I did not include in here actually because it
Okay.
was meant for higher education. But there are so many platforms,
Right.
Yes, sir.
So I request Sandhya ji, if you have any queries like that, you
She
just
can
directly
send me
put
an
to the
email.
Shiva
No
ma'am.
problem.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
sir.
can directly send it to her or send it to our mail. So
Yes,
I
sir.
just communicate in between.
Yes.
Then another question is from Sanmati Jain.
Yes, sir.
And she want to know how to motivate faculty to deposit their e-content or presentation in NDLI.
Actually, sir,
Yeah,
it's really
it is basically
difficult.
very difficult task.
Yes, sir.
So I'm working in the research organization and I also face the same difficulty with the researcher.
Yes,
They
sir.
just go and present the thing, but they don't want to put the thing
Yes,
material
sir.
in the KRC. Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
ma'am, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, really, the answer, the question is very simple, but the motivating answer is very difficult here.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. Either it is mandatory by their organization, her university or her college, that they will prepare some policy that at least a minimum of this number of contents will be uploaded or supplied by the faculty members, then it may be possible. Otherwise, it's really difficult for sir. Nobody
Yes.
can force
So
anyone. Yes, sir.
We just make our own way to motivate
Yes,
our
yes,
faculty
sir.
member to
Yes, sir.
deposit
Yes, sir.
to take
Yes, sir.
the
But
grab the
if
e-content from them.
yes,
Yes, ma'am.
organization if makes it mandatory, only then it can happen. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's really difficult.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Another ma'am, very important question from a
Yes.
very important person.
Yes.
Basically, the eminent public librarian from India.
Yes, sir.
One is Dr. Prashant Phadte from Goa State Library.
Yes,
Another
sir.
is Dr. Deepak Srivastava from Kota Public
Yes, sir.
Library.
Yes,
And the
sir.
question are same from both the persons.
Yes,
How
sir.
MOOCs can be beneficial for public libraries as
Yes,
they
sir.
are lifelong learning center?
Yes, sir. Sir, सबसे पहले तो आप मेरा नमस्कार दोनों सर को कन्वे कर दीजिए. Good afternoon both the sir. Actually, there are certain platforms which I will not name here, sir.
Yeah.
But I have observed that apart from our professional learning, for lifelong learning, they are providing courses who can opt any time at what stage of age or profession they are, but they can go for it. Personally, in a single way, I can provide names on email or through call, but there are platforms, I have seen them for lifelong learning. Yes, sir. And they
Right.
are very much instrumental in our public library and social context.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And the last one question I'm taking because
Yes,
a lot more questions are there, so I'll send it to you by the mail.
Yes, sir.
So
Okay,
time is
sir.
not permit to ask all the questions.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
there's one question from the Avinash Tripathi,
yes, sir.
and he says ki there is the anyone authority for authority for checking the quality of open access course and materials.
Sir, in our country, when we talk about Swayam, it is very much open there that who are coordinators and how different stages in developing and providing these courses are happening there. So it's very much transparent there. And definitely the quality check is there. The UGC and different experts related with Swayam platform and different MOOCs, they are bearing this responsibility.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I regularly got the request from the different person to ask you some question,
Yes,
but definitely I'll send you by the mail.
yes, yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
and now thank you so much, ma'am, for your association
Welcome,
with the
sir.
Library
Welcome,
Professional
sir.
Association.
I'm thankful
And
to all of you.
your inputs is always motivating us
Thank you, sir.
in
Thank you
all
very
the way.
much. Thank you, sir.
So now it's the time for the formal vote of thanks
Yes,
by
sir.
our secretary, Mr. Salik Chandji.
Yes.
So I invite Mr. Salik Chandji
Yes.
to come and give the vote of thanks to the participant. And before that, I just take a chance to assure all the participants, those who registered for the certificate and those who want PPT, they will get the PPT in their mail and as well as certificate. But they have to wait for 2-3 days. Okay, and if there is some problem, if they don't get the certificate by any chance, they can contact to me on 9910017177. They just send me the WhatsApp with their name, their date of the webinar, and the fee receipt. So over to you, Mr. Salik Chandji.
Thank you, Mr. Anand. Is it audible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. It's very much clear.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Anand, for giving me this opportunity. And first of all, I would like to express on behalf of the LPA my heartfelt thanks to all the participants. Really, without their support, we are not able to conduct such type of an webinar. And we have been receiving very huge response from the participants from each part of the country as well as from abroad. Really, we thanks to all the participants for their regular contribution to these webinars. And my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Siva. Today is a very
Thank you, sir.
eminent speaker,
Thank you very
and
much.
really your support. We are getting regular support from you, ma'am, in all the activities of the LPA, and we really thanks to your support, your
Thank you, sir.
presentation,
Thank
your
you very
talking,
much.
and your reply to the questions in a very easy mood and very well replied given by you to the participant. In future also we need your such support. Okay, dear.
Thank you, sir.
And
Thank you, sir.
thanks to the Kushumlata ji. Kushumlata, LPA Regional Coordinator of UP, and for her really efforts for moderating this event. And also thanks to our President LPA, Dr. Malviya sir, and Mr. Jha, and the team of the this Zoom meeting team, the moderators, all the team members. Really, they are the part of the our this webinar meeting, and really they are very helpful for us in each and every step. Ultimately, at the last, I would like to thanks to all of you, and especially my heartfelt thanks goes to all the participants for their continuous support to the LPA in these webinars, and we are able to conduct such webinars for the participants. Thanks to all, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very much.
thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Anand, thank you very much.